Hi.
Hi, hello.
Good morning for you.
Yeah, good afternoon for you. It's early morning again on this snowy Saturday in Wrocław, and it's great to see that we matched our shirts
I
today.
know.
I don't know. We didn't plan it, but it just happened like that.
Yeah, thank you for adjusting this time so that we can have this meeting this time. I know the time difference is sometimes inconvenient, but we appreciate your cooperation and all of the artists too. And so I thought maybe before I hand over this talk to you, we can do a little bit of introduction with my Japanese translation so that the Japanese audience can be ready for the talk in English.
Yeah,
はい。なので、これからですね、アーティストトークを始めるんですけれども、アグさんが、モデレーションで、アーティストたちをお迎えしてトークを行っていきますが、昨日と同じく少しだけ、日本語通訳を入れて、アグさんの導入から、お聞きいただければと思います。Yes, please.
Hi, thank you, Kanako-san. Yeah, indeed, we have a great bunch of artists for today's morning talk. We have two artist groups, let's say working very much together or occasionally together, which are Christa Sommerer and Laurent Mignonneau. Aleksander Komarov and Maxim Tyminko is another pair of artists whose work we planned to include in the SIAF, and that's why they are here with us. And Taavi Suisalu connecting with us from Tallinn in Estonia.
今日の、アーティストたちなんですけれども、まず、3組アーティストがいます。で、そのうちの2組は、デュオとして2人組で活動しているアーティストたちなので、今日は、大人数でお送りするかと思いますけれども、まず最初が、クリスタ・ソムラーさんと、ロマン・ミニョノーさんのお二人、こちらが、デュオとして活動されているお二人ですね。そしてもう一組が、アレクサンダー・コマロフさんとマキシム・ティミンコさん。こちらも二人組のアーティスト。そして、タービー・スイサルさんが、もう一人、ご参加いただいて、タービー・スイサルさんは今日はタリンから、ご参加されるのかなと思っております。
And we also have this quite cryptic and complex title of our talk, with which I would like to start in order to connect it to the artist's practice and the issues that provide the basis of their work.
で、今日のタイトルがですね、なかなか、複雑なタイトルになっていまして、自然現象と新しいメディア環境をつなぐということなんですけれども、このタイトルについて少しご説明することで、今日のアーティストの、皆さんの活動について少し導入になればなというふうに思っています。
So, we are going to speak about the relationships between the what is natural and the natural phenomena, and something that I call new media environments, which are I would say all the spaces in which we interact with new media now, which also serve as areas of interest for contemporary media art.
で、今日お話ししたいなというふうに思っているのが、まず自然と、自然における様々な現象、そういった自然の力というものと、私たちがニューメディアとして、ニューメディアの環境というふうに呼んでいるフィールドですね。で、この新しいメディアがどんどん立ち上がってくる中で、新しい環境というものがどんどん作られていくわけですけれども、その新しい環境がどういうふうになっていくのかということは、現 現代のメディアアーティストたちの非常に大きな関心事でもありますので、その関係性について話したいなというふうに思っています。
So we are going to talk about what is natural, what is artificial, how these new media environments with all the communication networks, all the invisible and very, very complex connections become part of our ecosystem. And we are going to talk about how art deals with this part and this aspect of reality.
ですので、その関係性というのは、自然界のもの、自然のものと、私たち人間が作り出した人工的なものというのがある中で、そこがどういうふうにそのコミュニケーションをとって、つながっているのかですとか、コミュニケーションのテクノロジー自体も、どんどん進化していく中で、そこには見えないつながりというのもたくさんありまして、で、その見えないつながりを持った、大きな生態系というものの中に、すでにそういった人工的な、ニューメディアの環境というのも組み込まれているわけなんですけれども、その環境にアートというのがどういう立ち位置で、いるのか、どういうことが、その中でアートを通じてできるのかということをみんなで話し合いたいなと思っています。
And I would say that this part of the contemporary creation is very close to science. So we are going to address issues that are core for this art and science, let's say, movement or their connections. Yeah.
で、そういった視点から、アートを見るっていうのは、非常にその科学の見方ですとか、科学の考え方にも近いものがありますので、その二つのつながり、アートとサイエンスのつながりですとか、そこがどういうふうな動きを持っているのかっていうことについても触れることになるかなというふうに思っています。
And we have great guests, great artists today. Actually, we are going to start with this very important couple for art and science. Very important, both great artists and scientists, Christa, Laurent, Christa and Laurent, Christa Sommerer and Laurent Mignonneau. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Let us, Kanako-san, introduce. I will need another chapter for introduction.
いただきたいんですけれども、まずは最初にクリスタ・ソムラーさんとロマン・ミニョノーさん、非常にメディアアートの歴史の中でも重要な、人物ですけれども、このお二人をお迎えして、お話を始めていただきたいと思いますが、もう一言導入として付け加えたいと思います。Yes.
And actually, they are the great example for how art and science cooperate and inspire each other. Because Christa Sommerer actually studied biology and botany before she entered the field of art education, so even if in the biography, this connection is very visible.
で、彼らが、彼らのことを私はアーティストであり、サイエンティストであると、言いたいんですけれども、彼らの、活動このお二人の活動というのは、非常に先ほど、申し上げたアートとサイエンスがどういうふうにお互いを刺激し合っているかっていうことを考えるのに非常に、良い例を示してくれるアーティストだなと思っていまして、特にクリスタ・ソムラーさんは、アートの世界に入る前は生物学を学ばれていたということで、本当に文字通りの意味で科学とアート両方に携わっている方だと思います。
Yeah, thank you, Kanoko-san. I guess this is the moment where we switch to English version only, and I would like to give floor to Christa and Laurent with that very question. When it started to you to be, this very exciting and very important, profound theme of your work, this connection between what is natural and what is technological. I ask in this very broad sense, just to let our audience also follow these, very, I would say, simple moments when in art some part of reality becomes so interesting for the artist that it determines totally, all the events that take place on the artistic path later. So when this connection between science and art, between nature and culture, but in this very specific approach that you proposed, started to be interesting for you.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka, for a nice question. And konnichiwa, minasan. Ohayo gozaimasu. So I'm very happy to be here and explain a little bit about the background of our works. For me specifically, this was quite early on, this kind of moment, eureka moment, where you find that art and science, art and culture and nature fits together. It was in Vienna, where I'm right now. And we have two wonderful museums. One is the Nature History Museum, and the other one, which is exactly the same building, just mirrored on the other side of a big, wonderful plaza, is the Museum of Art. And so when I came the first time to Vienna with my parents, specifically with my father, we spent 2 full days in those museums, and I could not decide which of the museum is more wonderful. I both loved them so much, and I stayed all day inside. And I was like really torn between this idea of which of the paths would I like to take in the future. And it was always my dream to know both art and to know both science. So I think I must have been around 6 or 7.
Thanks a lot for sharing this experience. I have to intervene here because I was probably 15 when I saw the Kunsthistorisches Museum, the Museum of Art History in Vienna, the one that Christa is referring to. And I remember that time stopped and, the people told me, okay, we're closing the museum, you have to leave. And I remember that I saw the other museum, the Museum of Natural History, and I was kind of puffed because it was like the mirrored building. So I really didn't know what happened, having the same museum behind, like the same building behind my back. So indeed, this location there might be very inspirational. So the both houses holding just superb collections. They might really, show to someone the future way. So they might serve as a great inspiration. How was it in your case, Laurent?
Yes, the museums are really fantastic. I will confirm that. Absolutely. It starts with childhood as well. For me, I started early on being interested in art. So I was also, drawings and my family is really much oriented in art as well. My brother is an artist. My sister is an artist. So in a sense, we were raised into this kind of idea that you could make art in your life. At the same time, I got really interested in technology, and it's already a science, computer science. It was the early time for small computers to come up in the 80s, and I started learning by myself, basically this technology, electronics as well. And I thought, I remember also, I have an anecdote I told by one of my best friends that I want to be an artist and electronician. And he told me, no, you have to decide. You can't be both. And I said, no, I will do both. And finally, it happened. It happened in media art that you can actually do both, and this is really fantastic. So this is really nice to have your passion connected together. That's how I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Advancing media and computer science from the mid 80s or late 80s for sure influenced heavily also the, let's say, advancement of natural sciences, offering the scientists all the modeling opportunities, all the visualization opportunities. And this is exactly when the tools of the scientists really match totally with the tools that the artists use. And here I'm coming to the tools that the artists also create by themselves in order to exactly connect to this nature, culture, art, and science continuum. And these were, in your case, and I think here of the installation Evolve that we originally planned to show in Sapporo, that uses very advanced tools. I think here of the programming language that you developed, that somehow mimics the natural flow of events that we might call genetics, or the science about how do we live and evolve as living beings on this planet. So I'm wondering how how it was when you realized, okay, there are some tools that are common, that are mutual or mutually used by the artists and scientists, but now we have to create our own tools that go beyond the both. So they go a bit beyond science and beyond art, or went beyond the usual field of art at that time. That's why we call you, or many of the field call you, pioneers.
Yes, it's an interesting question, because I mean, all artists are confronted with the representation of nature. Whether it's a painting, it's still not nature. You cannot really represent nature by it. I mean, you just can be inspired by it, but you can't really replicate it. But however, there are some interesting processes where you can actually approach the concept, the idea, and transmit it. So, for example, this evolutionary idea of having an artwork that change over time. This was quite new at this time. There was a field of science that was just being created, and the process itself is very interesting. Is that you don't create an object anymore, but you leave your artwork change over time. That means in itself, and with the users, then it will take a certain path and a certain form. And for the artist, you have then to step back and look what's happening. And that's kind of a different stand for an artist, to not just be the creator of the entire work, but actually to observe your creation changing. And Christa will actually explain this more in detail, I think, with the talk. So I'm not revealing everything, but this is the tools. We had to create a lot of things. You will see that at this time there were still not so many interfaces in order to make the work interactive. So we also had to create a lot of different tools that didn't exist.
Thank you for this comment and reminding us that you always deal with representation of nature in the art. I think this is the crucial point. Also, showing us the way to understand this, title that might be still, kind of mysterious for some of the of our viewers. So, how to link the natural phenomena and the media environments? It's being linked like always used to be in the field of art through the means of representation. And here we come again to the issue of the innovative tools that needed to be created first.
Yes, maybe I can add a little bit on this, and we prepared a few slides just to summarize some of our art practice. Like Laurent said, we are often interested in somehow dealing about nature or talking about nature, but in a mediated way, in a mediated nature or hybrid nature. So by linking real natural interfaces or developing natural interfaces that did not exist before or invent, like Agnieszka says, it enables us to prepare or create environments where people can start to interact, use their human senses, and we digitally enhance these senses. And what's interesting for us is to use this interaction data. When people are coming towards this installation, we capture data from them and then turn them and visualize them and create artworks that use this data into open-ended systems. Where people can have collaborative experiences and link the analog to the digital world. And one of the first installations where we did this, if we can switch please to the next slide, was plants. So we connected real plants. I think you know this very well. And then these plants are becoming some kind of gate entrance to a digitally enhanced world. We don't have now the time to go into details, but basically the interest was here to create a kind of second nature or an artificial nature, and then have people interact with real nature, real plants, to become part of an interactive garden that develops as people start to approach the real plants. And the work that you mentioned, Agnieszka, was, maybe we can switch a few slides forward to Evolve. Yeah, this was the interface using plants, which was also at that time a new invention. So this didn't exist yet, and Laurent made a special interface, development interface invention that allowed this access to capture data from real plants. And I think this is the work you mentioned, Agnieszka.
Exactly.
Sorry, yes, please.
Yeah, this is the work I saw in 1995 at the Vro Biennale when we actually first met. And this is also, I have to share this personal memory because this work really, completely changed my view on art, and really, like, I just understood, okay, this is a kind of revolution going on, and this is something really, really new and exciting when it comes to exactly the lots of possibilities that the artwork offers to the user to interact with and to, be a co-creator of this, at least, experience that is being exhibited then also as experience, in the museum. So it's really, this work that I wanted to show also for my personal reasons so badly in Sapporo. Please go on.
And maybe a bit of the context. We were very lucky at that time in the mid-90s to also live in Japan and specifically work at ATR research laboratories in Kyoto. And there was a very strong group on artificial life. There was Tom Ray, Katsuo Shimohara, Christopher Langton was organizing a conference in Nara on the field of artificial life. So we were quite involved in this artificial life community, which was more interested from a scientific point of view to understand how to simulate artificial evolution on a computer. And we were lucky to be allowed to be there as artists, working with the same tools and the same principles on the same topic, but from an artistic point of view. So maybe compared to the scientific simulations that were being done, they were more like looking really into details of, what is artificial evolution, and we were more interested in creating an interactive experience that allows people to experience somehow how could evolution work, or what is evolution and what's an evolutionary image. and link it to the interaction with people. That was mostly our goal. And of course, a few inventions came out from this as well.
I'm wondering how, if you could notice how, your contribution, your work within this interdisciplinary team influenced the scientists. Because, usually we, the organizers, curators, those who work closely with the artists, we all have the, or know the experience coming from the artists. But it's always, kind of really interesting to know what the scientists have taken out of this cooperation.
I think it's a little bit hard to pinpoint exactly what they take out of it, but since it was quite a tight community, I think we inspired each other. So of course the scientists inspired us artists because, for example, Tom Ray, he gave us tips of how to, create the evolutionary system in Evolve. And on the other hand, I guess since he was, for example, also participating in an exhibition in Los Angeles, which was the Interactive Media Festival, and exhibited his science project there, I think he also turned somehow a little bit into this artistic community. So it was a giving and taking on both sides, which I think is very inspirational. And we have also not to forget that around this time the Tamagotchi came up. I cannot exactly know where the people who made the Tamagotchi, took the idea from, but it was in the news a lot. So there was a lot of TV broadcasts about artificial life. Terra system of Tom Ray was in the news. Our work was a lot in the news. So I'm sure it was a kind of, zeitgeist somehow that this Tamagotchi idea also, caught attention from people.
Yeah, and entered the idea of artificial life entered the realm of really entertainment and pop culture, really at that time, and made also the idea of robotics, refreshed this idea a lot. I mean, in the like collective imaginary was heavily influenced by all these elements again at that time. So this is also, as you said, a matter of, or a sign of a zeitgeist, of an intensive period when there are some sudden developments in the arts, in the culture, in the sciences, where lots of things can be possible. Like for instance, now I guess it would be really not so easy to be part of such an interdisciplinary team of scientists for that long, and also develop your work, because you also the part of the developments were also made in the US, as far as I remember. So Evolve was an outcome of like really profound cooperations, and you were given like the high-end possibilities, also in terms of computers. There were only few places in the world that could allow to have those Indigos and all the other machines that don't exist anymore, just to work on these like completely new projects that I would say it was completely new framing of science and what the idea of science was. Also a sign of times.
But maybe also I think it's also very Japanese in a sense to not make so clear distinction between design and art and science. Often, even when you're going to Tokyo University and see the demos of the researchers there, sometimes they are artworks, sometimes they're like really amazing inventions. So I think in Japan there's also a lot of flexibility about the terms, and I think we were very lucky to be at that time at ATR, where not just us, but also some other artists were given the opportunity to tightly work together with scientists. And we all had the same title. We were just called researchers, which is also quite nice, that you're not just called artist or scientist, but you are a researcher. And it's true, art is also a form of research. Mm-hmm.
Of course, and now at least, these, the 30, 40 years later, it's so obvious that the artists do their research. There are research residencies, research trips, all these, forms of research are very, well, let's say they are supported because everyone understood or understands now, okay, art is a way of getting closer to the essence of the world. So it is very much about researching. I think there is even on the layer of the documentation of the SIAF 2020 and what we planned to do, it becomes quite obvious that there is this media historical path across the exhibition, and you just mentioned this cooperation between artists and scientists, and I have to mention also another artwork that was to be part of the exhibition, Sandster by Richard Ignatowicz. That is an example of an earlier era, but a great example of how tech companies really wanted to work with the artists at that time to have their new approach. But the way I would like now to make a jump to your current work, to the one that we wanted to show. In the second choice, as it turned out, we have to face some limitations, some pandemic-caused limitations, and Homo insectus is another approach, your newest approach to linking these natural and mediated environments, and I would like you to comment on this newest work and another approach to these interrelations between what is natural and cultural and technological.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Laurent, you want to speak?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, Homo insectus, we did this work recently, so in 2020, and it's composed out of thousands of ants. So it's, of course, ants driven through a computer, but it's coming from photos, sequences from a real ant. So it was from the garden, basically, that I filmed and extracted the movement and the shapes. And then it's about seeing yourself through the ant organization of a kind of a nest that would engulf your own body. So basically, there's a screen in front of you, a camera, and you just have to stand in front of the screen, like you see it on the picture now. And if you don't move, the ants will go out of some holes in the wall that is represented behind in the screen, and then try to come to you. And at the beginning, you won't see yourself, but then through the path that these ants are doing, then they will start to make your eyes, your face, your hair, and your clothes. And they will always walk all around these little passes. And it's very dynamic. So if you move a little bit, then they will reorganize and follow the new passes that are offered to them. If you leave, they all leave as well. So it's very dynamical, and you can have a look at the details. They are really walking onto the screen, and there are so many that you can't even look at a single one because it's overwhelming. And that was the idea also to convey, is that nature has this amazing amount of things in it, and that's really hard to actually observe. And when it recalls me, it's coming from childhood. Of course, I grew up in the countryside, and when you look at an ant nest, it's fascinating. It's really fantastic. The organization, It looks very random, but it's not, and it's also very extremely fragile. You disturb it a little bit, and then suddenly it's a panic, and they reorganize. And so the idea of looking at the living through you was the first approach. But there is also another thing. You leave traces. As you move, you can see it here on the picture. It's black. It's a little bit, you leave a kind of a trace. And this was to recall that you are actually not neutral. When you are in the nature, you're actually disturbing. Here, of course, this kind of black smoke, you could interpret it the way you want. It could be a pollution. It could be just a trace that you leave. It could be a scent. Right? The ants are looking at the trails that they are doing through smelling. And this reorganization is very fluid. So this is also something that in our work is really tends to repeat. It's this fluidity, that things are not driven, they seem to not be driven through a computer. Of course it is. Yeah. But the algorithm is made in such a way that it looks quite natural.
Yeah, I think what is important to say about this work, it's also, or how I feel it, at least, it's the way that, the software, the engine, let's say, is inspired by and mimics the way that the collective intelligence, the swarm intelligence works. And you have this representation of this, collective intelligence, but it is kind of, translated into the code that organizes the piece. And on the other hand, you also have those ants, the representation of the real ants filmed in your garden, and the image of the human being. The self-portrait in this kind of mirror also reminds very much that we are actually part of it. We are very much part of it, and it's much more important to understand this this basic connection than, for instance, using swarm intelligence in the robotics research or AI. This kind of mimicry is, I guess, less important than understanding the real bond that we have with nature. And this is so nicely visible in this work where we are literally built of other species. That's a real proof of connection and very inspiring one. Well, thank you, Laurent and Christa, for explaining. Please stay with us, as I will ask to connect to Maxim and Aleksander. And please note some question you would like to ask your colleague, fellow artist in the panel. Hello, Maxim.
Hi.
There is Aleksander as well. So, welcome. Hello, guys.
Hello.
So we are here in Amsterdam, right? With Maxim.
No, right now I'm in Montenegro.
You're in Montenegro. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay, and Aleksander is in Berlin.
Yes.
Okay.
So sun just have risen in Berlin.
I can confirm being 350 kilometers from Berlin here in Wrocław, the sun has risen too, which brings us directly straight to your work, which deals with the sunset and not the rising sun, the opposite, which is the installation, the data-driven installation, afterglow and the speed of time. But before we go into that, I would like just to briefly mention that, let's say Aleksander and Maxim are the next generation on this historical, let's say, timeline of media art that we have kind of, used to in today's talk for structuring the order of presentations. So you are born in the 70s. You were born to a country that doesn't exist anymore, because it was the Soviet Union back at that time. When you were born, on Maxim on the terrain of today's Ukraine and Aleksander in today's Belarus, things got very much complicated. But you also studied art in Poland. We know each other from the WRO festivals from, I guess, still 1990s.
Yeah, I was very lucky to study in Poland in this time, exactly on the time when there is Soviet Union breakup, because it was not an easy time transition from the one to another. Yeah. So it was very fortunate to be in that time and study art in Poland.
Yeah, you studied in Poznan, as far as I remember, at the intermedia department there. And Maxim, what was your point of study? How did you come to programming, working with algorithms and the so-called new media?
Actually, I was studying in Germany, in Köln, Academy of Media Arts, and actually I was doing a lot of videos before, and then there I met actually also. So Poland actually is our source of inspiration somehow, because I met Zbigniew Rybczynski, very important and very known video artist and actually toolmaker, because so he was inspired me to start programming, to start to learn programming, because he was doing a lot of tools for his video films actually himself and was programming. So it was really, he pushed me to go there, and it was really nice like kind of. It's a huge world of programming, which opens up so many possibilities, and it's really kind of nice. And then I'm very lucky that
Indeed, the Cologne School of Media, the KHM, at the time in the 90s was one of the, it was the academy for new media created then, and also by artists, and Zbigniew Rybczynski was indeed part of that. So it was for sure a great, start into already kind of advanced field in which, the art and science approach was very, let's say, supported at least. So you both work with the medium of video, you both create installations, you have your separate practices, but every once in a while you have your work together, just as it was the case in the case of the afterglow of the installation. I already could have experienced before. We showed it in Poland at the WRO Biennial and also in some other exhibitions. So it was in fact shown already 2 times within the WRO context. But the reason I wanted to include it in SIAF was exactly that the work deals with some very basic phenomena, natural phenomena that are super important for media art, which is really the time.
Yeah.
Media art deals with time, at least since the beginning, since the beginnings of film, of even music is a time-based media. But exactly those events in time, dealing with them, this is important subject, important issue for media art. And your work deals with the natural phenomenon, and I'm really very much interested in the ways that technology reframes the way we look at nature, and it's also it also has this kind of hacktivist approach. It uses the existing apps.
Mhm.
It's using lots of systems that are for commercial reasons there or for scientific reasons. So it is a kind of parasite, which is again some natural phenomena. So I would like you to comment on your approach to these interrelations as it is manifested in this common installation, in this collaborative work by you.
Should I?
Yeah.
Well, Agnieszka, yeah, thank you for introductions. You're absolutely right. It's kind of have this kind of hackers attitude, because of course we don't create new tools. We use the tools which is already there, and sometimes we use to understand the nature of phenomena as a kind of existing or something already there, and like and with our work, and we're trying to see, to create, or like, let's say the art here is coming in when we start questioning how we can interact with this phenomenon, how we show them, how we represent, and how they represented in that wild net. So it's very interesting to see this, how that science kind of correlate to the practice of imaginations. And yeah, we don't create new tools, but we use some technology, and like in this particular work, it's like a Google data, meteorological data, and some of the language we use for the programming. As Maxim can explain a little bit more about this. But yeah, it's very interesting was to see, like, even now we're talking about this attitude, like we're speaking through different places, from Berlin, Montenegro, and Japan, from Sapporo, and in 2 hours the sunset will be in Sapporo, I guess. And it is very incredible that this is interactions and something we can also do it through the internet. But Maxim maybe explain more about the program.
Yeah, please.
I just want to also to comment on that nature, art, and science kind of interrelationship. As Laurent mentioned, that art kind of represents the nature all the time. I also think that art is the way to change the perspective on how we look on the natural phenomena, or and to find this kind of find the perspective how to represent our mental view on the natural phenomena. And our work actually is like main idea was to actually change the perspective. We see the kind of banal and very easy to understand the phenomena of sunset, which is all the time in art, is actually now seems to be kind of like a cliche or kitsch even story, but to see it in a different way, kind of like to change how we see it, gives us a lot of different, absolutely different, not only information but experience, which we never experienced before.
Because I will intervene here shortly, because your work deals with expresses the sunset, the sujet of a sunset, that is, just as you say, almost kitschy, that expresses a new time-space feeling when we are all connected. The globe became even too small for us, and we just realized, okay, we have to work just like that across, at this moment across the time zones, and we have to be, somehow all the time connected to the very nerve of what is going on, and the cycle of sun setting and coming up. It's the most natural cycle. That also makes all the activities possible, because we have to be active. We are always active when the sun is up, and so it shows also this nervosity of the time, that there is all the time there is this moment on the planet that divides the night from the day. So I guess that you succeeded with providing a very unique perspective, a new perspective, at some kind of banal, normal thing as sun setting down.
It's pity we can't see a live preview, because it's actually here. Maybe I can explain what people see. So that from the left is our data. No, let's start from a different perspective, because the main point is we produce this. We try to represent the color of the sunset also, not only that kind of the event of sunset, but we try to generate the color of sunset, a very virtual color, but based on the weather condition at the moment of the sunset in a given geographical location. So it's also another kind of aspect of seeing that banal scene of sunset, just trying to really going into that kind of almost painter's work.
Attitude, yeah, sure.
But we are not taking our feelings or our eye on it, but just pure data, which has no meaning if you just look at this data by itself. But combining together, we can really represent weather conditions, geographical locations, and all the stuff into that single color, single pixel.
Yeah, I think it's a very strong meaning of added to this work by exactly choosing this one pixel. We perceive reality through the combination of pixels. So it's this is the way we perceive it. And also, if you look back in the art history, there was a certain very important painting that was a single black square that also contained all the painting, all the art of that time. That was the idea. So in a way, what Malevich referred to with his black square. We have here, the same approach to the issue of representing something impossible to represent in one picture. This is a calculated color. This is this pixel that also is changeable in scale. It can be bigger, it can be smaller, but this pixel of color is a result of the colors or the color palettes of the sunsets in this very location. So the software analyzes the colors of the photographs of the sunset taken. Yeah, so this, as you see here, we have just another approach to linking this very, as we already agreed, old banal sunset. It's all this phenomenon that we as humanity, for sure, since we exist here, we always looked at the sunset, but here we can use look at it using tools that are already there. So here, the way the artists connected to the natural phenomenon in a mediated environment was just to reappropriating using the existing tools. Stay with us here in the backstage, and please, note the question to your fellow artists. We will have time to have these questions. And now it's my pleasure to invite Taavi Suisalu from Estonia. Hello, Taavi.
Hello.
Yeah, here we come to the next generation of artists working with technology. I'm trying to omit this, word new technology because it's very tricky, Well, let's say technology, and technology offers new solutions every once in a while. So basically, you work with technology in relation to nature, but also in relation to this, I would say, enhanced nature. In your just as I understand the field of your references, is the nature already enhanced by technological, part of the technological ecosystem or infrastructure. So this is already this nature in which you have the natural phenomena such as, water, sky, sun, but you also have communication satellites, you also have underwater internet connections, and I guess your way to connect to these issues is maybe in that sense a little bit different than we could see in the practice of Christa, Laurent, and Maxim, and Aleksander, that you often use sound as this intermedia. And also I would say the very nature of photography, film, and video, which is light. And here we come to the work we planned to show at Sapporo International Art Festival. That is again an outcome of a longer research on exactly how the natural and the artificial phenomena coexist together in a mediated environment. The floor is yours.
So I think it's quite. Thank you for inviting me to this talk, and also to the exhibition as well. And I think I kind of try to approach these technology and nature and art as kind of like from an ecosystem point of view, or kind of to see them as inclusive to all of our environments in a way. And in a way I like to think that I kind of create these small utopias that kind of function simultaneously on technical, poetical, and metaphorical levels. The work which we were supposed to show at in SIAF 2020, it was called Touch of the Network, and it's a part of a series of works, and the series is called Subocean Spotlights. So in the most kind of a general sense, this work really deals with light, and this very specific light, kind of a communication light, which carries information nowadays, and this communicative light has become as existential to our technological societies as sun is for the plants. And kind of in hindsight, actually, I recently read a book which is Nova Scene by James Lovelock, and James Lovelock is one of the authors of the Gaia hypothesis, and so in this new book, there's another hypothesis which basically argues about the evolution of hyperintelligence and where does that fit in into our current kind of evolution. But in that book, he also kind of mentions three evolutionary phases which concern the light. So the first he points out is when the photosynthetic bacteria appeared, which was 3.4 billion years ago. So I mean, so that was when sunlight was converted to energy, basically. So that's like one development. So the second he points out is the 18th century or 17th, 18th century, when inventors kind of started to create efficient machines which were able to convert sunlight into work. So basically, by burning coal, they were able to use this fossilized sunlight to generate work. And so he argues this third phase that either we already entered or are entering is when sunlight is being converted directly to information. And so in a way, so in hindsight, I think it's quite in a very good way gives a context also to the series of works, or both this touch of the network, what we are seeing now. And so this work, basically, it was just this kind of a tripod of a search lamp and this kind of a physical sculptural object. But at the same time, it was object in this vast network between things. And this network is present everywhere nowadays. It's not only present in our living rooms, but it's also present in our environments and also in our natural environments.
I think that's what makes your work so striking, because you know, you have all these idyllic landscapes that seem to be so quiet and so remote, and there are only, you know, like the lighthouse, like the light tower that is on this picture is maybe the maximum of civilization that you have on those pictures. And on the other hand, this, you know, old-fashioned device that, you know, it also comes from another era. It's like totally 18th, 19th century, when, you know, the geographical inventions and you know, discoveries were so important for us, were some associated with some, you know, great future. And now this device really shows the complexity, the vast network of these communication protocols that are actually
I think there's two very important points which you mentioned now in a way. So this kind of these landscapes, well, I try to work somehow in a way that the landscape become collaborators to the work. So also in this specific image you see this lighthouse, and it's kind of like an illustration to the work as well, or kind of giving another context that this object which is turning towards robots, or as I mentioned, maybe I can briefly mention. So this object is object in the network, and whenever you enter something into the network, it becomes automatically targeted by automated processes or robots. And whenever this tripod is being then accessed or communicated towards from any of these automated processes, it just turns itself towards the geographical location where it's being contacted from. So if it's being contacted from Sapporo, it will turn itself towards Sapporo, and if it's contacted from Tallinn, it will turn itself toward Tallinn. So in a way, it also becomes this lighthouse. But the lighthouse in the background has also a very interesting story, which is kind of what stage this work as well. So this lighthouse, it's not fixed in location. And if we think about lighthouses, I mean, that's their function, that they should be in one place. That's how they work. Because in that sense, they were able to help the seaman to kind of navigate safely. But this specific lighthouse has become loose from the ground. And so with winter storms, it kind of moves around. And actually, originally, this lighthouse was on the land, but because due to erosion, the land kind of moved away from the lighthouse. So it gives this kind of vulnerability to the situation. And yeah, that's another aspect which I wanted to introduce into the work, that this kind of reliance of technology, it has its kind of other aspects as well, what we need to consider. Yeah, and using the old technology, I think it's also connected. Yeah, I somehow like to, because whenever a new technology is being introduced into our environments, we quite quickly pick up this technology, or how we start to use it, and so on. And so it changes our behavior and thinking in a way. But some of our processes inherent in our bodies, like our psyche and these kind of things, these evolve very slowly. So in a way, like our environment changes, but some parts of ourselves still remain like very ancient or prehistoric in a way. And so I like to have this kind of a very broad picture to the situation, or try to find some kind of similarities.
Also aesthetic representation, yeah, for these both states. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Taavi. That's I guess another approach. The context you provided from James Lovelock's evolution of the light, how light has served us, not only as humans but as the life on the planet. In what way? I think it's also very like. It provokes to deeper thoughts on what became so crucial to us once it was, the process of photosynthesis, like turning light into energy, life-giving energy on this very nano level of the microorganisms, and now it is about to turning light directly into information. So information is now seems to be for us the most important, let's say, kind of food that we have to consume in order to behave in this world. And it's also important to say, you probably mentioned or spotted already that the Taavi's installation was put in different ecosystems, and we talked a bit about those landscapes, how important they are. And for Sapporo, we also planned this, let's say, site-specific version to have the Lightbot operating in Mignonneau Park. Having this background, very special background there.
But this is also, I think, which kind of so whenever I show this work, I try to show it in a way that it has the sculptural, physical object, in the exhibition, but it also has a video showing this work performing in a local environment. So and this really deals with this representational issue as well. So I wouldn't only want to use the video, which in a sense would be really kind of a representation of having the object in the environment. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want to have only the physical object as well, which in the gallery situation, it really functions. So it's not a representation, it's the object itself in a way. But to have this dichotomy or this situation where the problems of representation in a way also become apparent, that we have this object which is performing and somehow becomes part of the local environment, and through that somehow becomes closer to us or more like a normal to us. But on the second hand, that we still would have this functional object. Maybe another context pointer, which I'm showing another book, which is Dissolve into Comprehension by Jack Burnham. And he was an art critic and also a sculptor. And he was, especially in the 70s, he was trying to write about system aesthetics, which is a way to include system theory into the art practices. And I think this is also in hindsight, but I think my work in a lot of way tries to create some kind of systems or environments which are more kind of inclusive to the outside environment as well. And so they are not only functioning in the gallery spaces, but they somehow try to find ways to communicate outside of the gallery, and in my recent work, more directly with natural environments, or even I'm working with something where I try to now collaborate with nature as well. So trying to, of course, we can't escape the representation, but at least I try to
just bring out
become closer
become
to the situation.
Closer, and also bring this issue of representation as such, because this is also about what it's been a struggle within the field of art since the first representation ever of an animal on the rock somehow. I see now that there is a time now, I guess, to raise to ask some questions. I asked you all to have some question for your fellow artists, and since it was Taavi who used the word evolution, now I guess I have to go back to our first guests, to Christa and Laurent, and ask them to ask a question to one of the fellow artists. Do you have a question or comment?
Okay, thank you very much for your nice presentation. I really like your artworks, and I think they all deal somehow with nature and mediated nature. When I think about the work of Taavi, these posts that are changing according to the light, they remind me a little bit to when you're taking a hike, and sometimes you encounter these signs which shows you the direction to Paris, maybe 1,000 kilometer, or maybe to Moscow, I don't know, 500 kilometers and so on. So I always like these signs that suddenly in the middle of nowhere, you have a sign that tells you where you are and gives you somehow a direction out of the blue. And somehow this object that you made reminded me a little bit to this. I don't know if this was an inspiration for you, but that sort of triggers this sort of inspiration in me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see this connection, but I think my inspiration was maybe more like, so the objects consist of a surveyor's tripod. So a tripod which was used to kind of measure land. So it also has this comment about this digital and physical landscapes. And on top of it, it has this light. So it kind of becomes this searchlight also, which was used to search for survivors in boat, when the boat kind of came to the shore. So it's, I think it's, the inspiration was more in this historic navigation in a way, or somehow appropriating that type of sensations to this contemporary version where light is also very existential, especially this communication light, but in a very different way. But trying to overlap this traditional navigating in the seas, it's also about exploration, of course,
I think thank you, Christa, for this comment, because I think I have like another comment, because I always also wondered about, those sudden suggestions and why certain cities on, those road signs are more important than the others. Sometimes these are like small cities, and then you want to go to exactly, let's say, capital, and then it turns out that you drive 300 or 600 kilometers, not in the direction of the capital, but some small city, which is important because of from the, let's say, system point of view, the road system or transportation system. So in this way, I guess Taavi's work showing to some, important connection, important because there was, the act of communication happened there, but we don't know exactly why, this media highway is important in this moment, just on the eastern side and not on the western one. So these are like, in the old system there are some points that are like, white spots. We don't know why certain knots play important role or decisive role in that kind of system. So I guess there is, because when I interact or read and try to, I never saw the Taavi's work on live on site, but when I think of this work, it makes me like really insecure. Why is it important? Okay, something must have happened there so that the light shines up, but why? And I think this is this part of yesterday's talk issue that is very important for technology. To what extent is it a black box? So and to what extent can we understand it here? And I think for our today's session, it is like, we are opening this black box when it comes to relation between nature and technology and culture, where we have to, I guess, constantly ask ourselves about the nature of our relationship with nature, how this relationship with nature really is. And so now maybe I see that Maxim is missing. So I would like Aleksander to either comment in the name of the two of them or ask a question.
Thank you, Taavi, for your presentations. I have one comment, because referring to the natural phenomenon, you're trying to put your robotic sculpture inside of this environment, but it is always coming where it needs light, right? It's a dark places rather, or something where it's useful for the light. Did you ever try it? Because the nature also generates sometimes light itself, like some animals, insects, fishes, some trees, some plants, they also produce some light and they're generating light. Is there was in your work was something you've been considering, like to compare this to like technological and natural? Thank you.
Well, actually, the real background of this work, or it's like it has developed in multiple phases. And the most original idea I was thinking about was directly using the sunlight to actually use the direct sunlight, not specifically in this installation, but within the same ideas that that the sunlight is as existential, or this communication light is as existential to our society as sunlight is for the plants. So I tried to use sunlight collectors, and with these sunlight collectors, one could bring the sunlight directly in fiber optic cables and these kind of things. But yeah, now it kind of works in a metaphorical level, or there's all of these different layers present, so it's still a functional object. So it's something which really performs in the environment and really in real time reacts to this communication. But there's some poetical and metaphorical aspects, but
for sure, the Taavi's work is an outcome of a bigger research. So it's a, let's say, maybe spin-off, or a smaller work that was created on the occasion of working on the installation Sub-Ocean Boat Lights, where Taavi also used living coffee plants that were planted, in jars, in in those. Please remind me of the professional name of that jar to transport.
Wardian cases.
Yeah, Wardian cases, exactly. That were used to transport tropical exotic plants from other continents, where exactly this artificial, this technological information light lit up directly, giving the let's say the source of life to the plant. So it was another. So that was.
Making a meeting point between these digital networks and biological networks. So in a way, a meeting point between digital and biological ecosystems.
Easy, Christa.
What I think I found also very interesting recently, and I see it also a lot with our students here in Linz at the University of Art and Design, is there is a very strong interest now in the art community of translating phenomena of nature into something else. So this translation mechanism, and of course media art is very good in this, because you can take data and translate them into images or sounds or transform data. So this kind of representing nature through data visualizations or data sonification, I think is a very strong trend recently. And
thank you, Christa, for this comment, because we also I haven't, when introducing you, I haven't mentioned that Christa and Laurent were co-founded the Interface Culture study program at the Art University in Linz, which is for sure and has been since several years, already more than 10 years, right? It's
I think 16 years.
So it's been an important place where exactly those translations were analyzed and studied, and also the proper interfaces, how to connect these two realms.
Cheers.
I think I just lost my voice.
Water.
Yeah. I really did.
Somebody.
I would like to tap you on the back, but we can't.
Yeah, but our talk is also going to its end. So, Tanoko writes me, take care. sure. It's nothing serious, but maybe too much early morning talk before breakfast. It's not so good for your throat. Nevertheless, I think we provided quite an inspirational insights into how artists work on this, let's say, interface between nature, its representation, and the use of new technologies within the field of art. And I would like to thank you all for this contribution. The detailed information about the artist projects are to be found on all our websites. We have also great interviews with all of the artists, so you can read more and you can watch more if you got inspired by our today's talk. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christa, Laurent, Taavi, Maxim.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
very much.
Bye. Take care.
Hope to see you soon.
Enjoy your